hast du die Hand eigentlich her?
Angeblich war es die Hand von jemandem, der mit den Toten reden konnte.
Ich habe gehört, es ist die Hand eines Satanisten. Sag, talk to me.
Talk to me.
Heilig verdammt, es reicht, er erstickt gleich. 83 Sekunden, Joss, nimm die Hand weg. Was, wenn wir die Tür geöffnet, aber nicht geschlossen haben?
For us, Michael and I, we'd already been crewing on films before the YouTube stuff. So we'd worked in the sound department, the grip department. Michael was a runner. I was in the lighting department. So we knew how sets were run, and we know that the rhythm and the pace that it runs at. So for us, I knew what it was going to be like. So when it was time, I feel like I really honed my craft practically as a director on the RackaRacka stuff, and really focusing on that special effects, makeup, and stunts and VFX. And I'd worked on crew before, so we sort of were ready for it. I was always really hands-on with the writing of the film. Like, Michael only gave notes, he didn't really write on the film. And then he was really hands-on with sound design and music. So that was where he really, really specialized, and he put together a whole temp score for the entire movie and was like in every sound department. To an annoying extent. So he was there for that. And then on set, because we've been making stuff together since we were 9 years old, we just have a very united vision. And we both knew what we wanted. So we were united there. And where we argued or really butted heads was in post in the edit. That's where because he edits and I edit, and we had our own edits of the movie, and we're always fighting over which version was better. That was a thing. For me personally, it's always a bit difficult to watch my own film, and a bit embarrassing, and always there's a lot of cringing in the back and being like, watching people get up and go to the toilet and being like, oh my god, I hate the movie. So always overthinking, but overall, I've been to screenings all over the world, and it always gets a very big reaction in the cinema, and it's very loud, and so that's always good also to sit in and listen to different responses and see what beats are hitting, what's not hitting, and just feeling out the room has been very excited. But I'm very happy with how it turned out, and very happy with the audience responses, that it feels like a fun audience film. Yeah, so she spent we sat down in pre-production and really mapped out every beat of the film. We talked through all of the dialogue and allowed her to really embody to the characters, change things that don't feel right in your mouth and change things that don't feel real. And she could have a really hands-on approach, or she could have help pick her outfits and her wardrobe as well, sticking to our color scheme, but she had a real big input in that as well. And with the possession sequences, we got all of the cast members to do each other's possessions, and even the crew members did it as well. And my brother and I did it, our cameraman did it, just so everyone was comfortable with doing it, not had to be embarrassed, and could use each other's performance to build each other's possessions as well. Take elements from everyone's interpretations. And then on set, there were days where we asked her not to sleep before coming to set. So she would stay up all night and come to set and then be in a bit of a weird headspace, and they would a little bit help her performance. But she was always constantly listening to music and getting in the zone and distancing herself sometimes from people just to try and help her get into that zone. But her method, she was always able to jump out of it. She was always getting into a dark headspace, but she was always able to jump out of that. And that was a little bit more difficult with some of our younger cast members that had to go through some of the darker scenes. She was amazing. They're big. I'll try and rush through these stories. When I was 19, I had to go on this trip to document a place called Kangaroo Island, and that was just about filming the locals there and talking and covering a whole bunch of stuff. And because I was younger, I was put with these kids that were going on a sporting bonding trip, and so these kids ended up being a bit crazy, and they were pitting each other's heads down, shaving each other's head with sheep shears. They were taking drugs, and then I remember they drove out onto this field, and I was sort of clinging for life in the back of this ute, and they went out onto this field, and there were hundreds of kangaroos there. And they started running the kangaroos down, driving over the kangaroos and getting out of the cars and like beating the kangaroos to death almost. And like these kangaroos were screaming, like kangaroos scream. And like, I just remember that sound and that night really sticking with me. And that kangaroo is a symbol of Mia feels guilty for not having the courage to put it out of its misery. And those screams are haunting to her, and like it always ties into maybe her mum's depression and like a state of helplessness that she was in to help her mum, and like she's suffering herself. And so the kangaroo is always tying back to Riley's pain in the film. Like the spirit saying, put him out of his misery. Like he's in pain right now. You need to do this for him, and like psychologically using that to manipulate her and turn her to that. And at the end of the film, she's in that spot that the kangaroo was in on the road, and she was the one that was in pain. And yeah, it's like a really dark look at things a little bit. So at suffering and pain. And yeah, the hand, all the way through the first draft of the film was all about human touch and connection and the connections between people. And Mia's rejecting these natural connections at home, and she's using these forced connections, forcing herself into this family, forcing this connection with the dead. It was just all about hands and touch, and that Mia is getting all of these points of intimacy ripped away from her to the point where she's only connecting with this vice or this drug, and she's spiraling. We had 5 weeks to shoot the entire film, and everything was very practical, and so like it was like a very tight time schedule, and so like it was constantly in a battle, and like didn't know how to yeah, like we was constantly like fighting against the clock, you know. So that was very difficult, and there was a couple of big one-take shots in the film that were very difficult to pull off as well. But the real difficult part was in post and nailing the music. That was the hardest part, I think, out of everything. It's always different films that I look up to, you know, and for this film specifically, like we love Bong Joon-ho's Memory of Murder, the way that he's able to blend tone and genre. We loved Let the Right One In terms of like that felt like horror that was like really rooted in character, as well as The Exorcist felt like it was super horror rooted in character. There was a drama film called The Return where we think that really captures youth and like has like a really melancholy sort of tone to it. So that was and The Vanishing as well, because that was another cautionary tale where this character's making all the wrong decisions. And yeah. And then sorry, going back to the kangaroo and stuff, it was just always telling things from Mia's psychological point of view and how she's feeling about certain things, and that we never see any ghosts or spirit outside of Mia. All the other kids are connecting with ghosts. We're only ever seeing it from Mia's perspective. So it was always just trying to find things that were representing her mental state and her head state. Yeah.
Oh my God.